on the left over here is where I'm at so far with my page, and on the right is where I'm going to go. And it seems at this point, the majority of what I need to do is going to be CSS. I need to start styling things like especially this font, the background, some centering and alignment. Obviously these my lists over here, the bullet points on them I'm going to need to change, and I do all of that with CSS. So going back into Dreamweaver over here, I'm looking at what I've got done so far. Now, I've added some preliminary CSS while I was putting the content in, just to kind of help me out a little bit. It's fine. I mean, I kind of put it all in the same document, but now that I'm going to start really doing some major work with this with the CSS, what I want to do is actually separate my CSS from my HTML. But what I mean is completely separate it by way of putting it in an external document, which is going to be a CSS document, and then linking this HTML document I have to that. So before I do that, let's just discuss exactly what we're looking at over here. Now, highlighted in blue over here is all the code that I have for the code that's the style that's affecting my HTML document. And really, this highlighted portion is a mixture of HTML and CSS. So let me just clarify which is which. Now, you're familiar with the standard HTML syntax, which starts with a tag like title over here, and then it has the stuff of the title inside, and then it needs to be closed. Well, embedded CSS is exactly the same as that, and here we have a style tag, an HTML style tag that says the tag is style and its attribute says type, and that it's CSS. And we see that we open up the style up here, and then down at the bottom we have to close style in the traditional HTML fashion that we do this. But in the middle is the content. Now, it's only this stuff in the middle that is CSS. This is CSS code. So just to be clear, style here up top and below are not CSS. They're the HTML that's saying, hey, you're about to see some CSS code inside over here. So with that said, when we go and create a new external style sheet and we want to move the styles that we have embedded from our HTML page to the CSS page, we would never copy this style over here. We'd actually only copy the guts inside of it, which is the raw CSS code. So let's do just that. Now, here's one of the ways that Dreamweaver is awesome. We've done a lot of manual coding on stuff, but setting up a CSS link there's a lot of attributes to doing it right. So since we have Dreamweaver, why not use it? I'm going to go to my CSS panel over here, and down at the bottom you have this option that's a new CSS rule. And when you click on it, you should see this dialog box. So let's talk about what we're looking here real quick, at least what we're looking at with regards to what we've covered already. Now it says choose the contextual selector type for your CSS rule, and basically we've used two of these so far. ID refers to IDs because we gave our div elements ID attributes, and with CSS, one of the main reasons you use ID selectors is so you could target them with CSS. So right there we have ID if we're going to create a new rule. right underneath that is tag, and tag refers to actual HTML tag, whether it be P for paragraph, H1 for headers, or it seems since we didn't have anything selected over here, when we just chose it, it said body. And if you look, here's a bunch of other HTML tags that it has that we could quickly select, but body is just fine because we're actually more or less using this new CSS rule for Dreamweaver to automatically generate a external CSS document for us. So, but in order actually to say we're using it to generate an external CSS document, but if we don't select this right here, new style sheet, what's going to happen is that it's just going to place the body tag within the where it says this document only within the embedded style that we already have. So let's create a new style sheet. So I put tag, body, and new style sheet file, and I'm going to click OK. And now it's going to ask us what we want to name it and where we want to save it. So I am going to save this within the same folder that my index.html is at. And I'm going to name mine main.css. Okay? Once I hit save, I'm going to get the CSS rule dialog box. And why not, just to see it take effect, I'll define a background color for my document. Let's do, okay, this green color, and I hit apply. And oops, actually, I did color foolishly. I meant background color. Here we go, background color. And now we'll do that same, where did I pick it? There we go. All right, and I click OK. Now, let's get out of here and let's see what happened. Now, I have an asterisk by index.html, so I know that I have yet to save it, so something's changed. And interestingly enough, I also have the file that I named as a new tab over here called main.css, which, as you can see, also has an asterisk, so that hasn't been saved. These are all indicators by Dreamweaver that, well, some change has been made to my page and I haven't saved it yet. And second, there's another document attached to this page. So if I scroll down my HTML, I see that here is the code that it created. Now, this code is HTML, and it's unique in the sense that it's one of these types of elements that doesn't need to be closed. You wouldn't do /link. You see how even when I tried to do that, Dreamweaver tried to end the head first. But this is wrong. This is a standalone HTML link attribute. Basically, what this does is it links to a document and says, hey, this is CSS code on this document. You would similarly link a JavaScript document, for example, to it if you're going to be doing JavaScript. And href, you just see in parentheses over here, in quotes rather, that it just says main.css. Well, this thing is linking to a document that's in the same folder as the file it's in. So the path between one and the other is just main.css. Now, if we compare this to our link to the bush image, that's inside of an images folder. So you have image/bush. So just keep an eye on that. What that means, just to be clear, is that if you end up moving this CSS document and say you create a new folder called assets and then you dump that CSS file into the assets folder, well then effectively you've broken the link and the styles won't work anymore. And you know what, maybe that's something that I should demonstrate. So I just saved this and the asterisk went away. Now if I click on main.css, I'll save this as well. And let's just view our page. this is the page before I added that external style sheet. Now I'm going to refresh it. Right, and now you see how that basically, because this link links to main.css, when I click there, I see the body tag. Now, just to illustrate what I'm talking about, I am now going to move main.css into the images folder. Okay, the file still exists, but now it's in a different place. So when I refresh this, well, all of a sudden the attributes don't take effect anymore because it's changed. That's why it's important to maintain. That's why if you're going to move stuff around in your folder structure, you want to account for that in your source code, because obviously if you don't change it in the HTML, it's still going to point there and it's not going to know. So that was pretty simple, and we see that both our embedded styles and our external style is taking effect, because that's how CSS works. It's just going to pick up whatever style it wants. But it's very dangerous to mix, use embedded styles and external styles, because then you're going to have a big styling mess that may be hard to keep track of. So what we're going to do now is move our embedded styles into that external style sheet. So I said that this style up below and at the top is HTML. So this would not go into the CSS document. All you want to bring in is the actual raw CSS code, which is this stuff right in here. Now if you highlight all this stuff and I just cut it right out of the document, then go to your CSS main, you could paste it right in there. And now you're pretty much good to go. Well, there's one other thing you could do. Save this, main.css. I must have hit save as. Oh, duh, that's because I moved it. Hang on a second. Let me move this back. You see, I'm already making a mess for myself over here. I'm going to move this right back to where it used to be so I don't screw things up. Okay, now I'm going to save this again. Okay, now it's saved, and I'm going to go back to my HTML page, and since there's no styles in here, this is just would be considered garbage code. I'm going to delete that, and what I should see over here once I refresh this page is this the way it is, but including the green or the khaki looking background. And I did just that. So that's it. Now you should understand the concept of externalizing CSS. And the reason the CSS still actually affects your pages is because it's being called in by this HTML link. If this link points to the incorrect file, well then guess what? Your CSS isn't going to be rendered because it's not actually pointing at the right place.